Okay, well, welcome again to the year-end checklist accounting webinar. What we're going to do today is go through our list of nonprofit accounting year-end checklist items. This form is available online for you to download, and so what I'm going to do today is just kind of walk through anything, walk through all these little steps, tell you some bonus information, and then open it up for some Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot those through, and we will go through everything at the end. Okay, so really this checklist kind of boils down to four main categories. You've got your reminders, you've got some transactions that you're going to need to post, you've got some reviewing that needs to be done, as well as tax forms that happen at the end of the year. Now, these these points can work for anybody. So this is just in general nonprofit resource stuff. So not necessarily Aplos customers, although we do help do a lot of this stuff automatically. We can help a lot with a lot of these processes, which I'll mention as we go through. So if you do use Aplos, then great, welcome. If you don't, I will do my best to convert you, but it'll be helpful either way. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off. I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit. I'm not going to go down the list. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with tax forms, since that's what everybody's favorite, right? So as far as tax forms go at the end of the year, you're going to want to do three different things here. One is you're going to want to review the W-4 forms for your employees. Some people have kids or have, get married and different changes. And so you want to make sure that their W-4 forms are up to date. And so that if the employee has more deductions or if their address changes or just whatever, just make sure that those are up to date. So that you can give them the accurate information. The next is the IRS Form 1099 for vendors. There's a whole process that goes into that, but basically what a 1099 is if you have paid a vendor over a certain amount during the year, they're not an employee, they're someone that you've contracted out work to, you would need to provide them a 1099 to list out that work so that they can properly file their taxes as well. So you're going to want to complete that process. A lot of accounting softwares have a 1099 process. You can also buy the triplicate and form and software and stuff from Office Depot or whatever. In Aplos, we actually have something geared up for that as well. So if you use Aplos and you need to use or do the 1099 process, feel free to let us know and we can help walk you through that. And then lastly, in the tax forms, is complete contribution statements by January 31. Oh, 1099 is January 31 as well. Contribution statements is giving out the record of all of your donors and their donations throughout the past year. So that way they can file their taxes. So what you're going to want to do, and this kind of ties into the year-end transactions as well, but you want to make sure that everything has been entered for the year. So anything up to December 31, everything's accounted for, everything's entered, all people are spelled correctly, you've got their address, got everything that they need, and then you're going to want to get those statements out by January 31st so that they can do their thing as well. So those are your tax forms. Those are kind of the legal things that you need to take care of. Some other transactions here. I mentioned the donations. So input all donations that were received or postmarked by December 31 for the closing year. That kind of ties into the contribution statements, but also for your financial recording as well. So donations is not only a list in an accounting of people and their records, but that goes into your accounting. That's how much money you have, right? So that's money that you've received that you want to make sure that you have accounted for. Some other stuff that you're going to want to keep a check on is reimbursements. So any end of the year business expenses, if your director or pastor or board or employees have spent money and they need to get reimbursed for things, make sure you have that entered. Payroll, if you've been paying people, you want to make sure that all of that is cleared out as well as any other kind of other pending transactions that happen. So any payments that have been made, any things that you've purchased, any other donations or income that you received, revenue, things like that. Just want to make sure that all transactions have been accounted for. And that ties into the last step here, which is to complete a bank reconciliation for the month. Now, if you don't have your bank reconciliation as a part of your monthly checklist of things to do for your accounting, I would highly suggest to put that in there. What a bank reconciliation does is allows you to compare your bank statement, so your actual bank statement, with your accounting software, so whether it's Aplos or QuickBooks or whatever you use, in order to make sure that everything's accounted for. So you would literally go down the list of your bank and say, okay, here's a transaction for $10. Okay, there it is in my accounting, check. Here's a donation for this much, here it is hitting my bank, check. And so by going through that, you come to the conclusion that as of a certain date and a certain time, your bank and your accounting match. And so therefore there's no discrepancy, everything's been accounted for, you're good to go. So that's a good thing to do just on a month-to-month basis. But if you haven't done that for the year, it might be beneficial for you to go through that, just because nobody wants to think that they have more or less money than they actually do. That is frustrating. So those are the year-end transactions you're going to want to make sure of: donations, reimbursements, payroll, anything else, and then solidifying all of those things with a bank reconciliation. The two other categories we have here is review accounts and year-end reminders. So I'll do the review accounts first. For review accounts, you're going to want to run annual reports to make sure that everything checks out. So running an accounts balance, a transaction list, an income statement, a balance sheet, all of these reports that show kind of a snapshot of how much money you've spent and received during the year, what's the detail, how's that broken down even into per fund, which you can do with Aplos. And then you're going to want to file those away, so that way there's some record of that. Confirm bank account balances, so take a look at checking and savings and whatever else you've got going on. Make sure that they match your Aplos account. If they don't, then there's probably a transaction missing in your accounting, which needs to be taken care of, which again kind of links back to that whole bank reconciliation thing. Confirm fund balances are carried into the next year. With Aplos, we make that very easy. So if you're tracking multiple funds and you're not using Aplos, then good luck to you. We can maybe try to coach you through that a little bit, but you're going to want to find an accounting solution that is geared towards tracking fund balances accurately, and not through tags or classes or anything like that, but actually true fund accounting. So not only your bank balances, but within your bank, you want to know how much of my checking is designated to this, that fund, and this fund, and make sure that those balances are correct so that in the next year, you're starting off accurately. Account signatories are still valid. Let's see, healthcare, open enrollment, if applicable. What's next? Review internal controls for the upcoming year. Internal controls are procedures and things that you do to kind of put like a checks and balances system into your accounting. So that is something like a bank reconciliation, but that can range from very minute to very broad things. But if you don't have any internal controls, we can provide some resources for that as well. But you'll want to review those, making sure that you are good for the next upcoming year, 2014. You also want to prepare your budget for the next year and make sure that your budget matches your chart of accounts. So if you've been using a accounting software, you've got a chart of accounts, you've got income and expenses and funds and the bank accounts and all of these things that you use to track information. And so if during this year you have added accounts, you've removed accounts, you've disabled, you've adjusted, you've changed the way you do things, you want to just kind of first review and make sure that your chart of accounts still makes sense for you. And then if it makes sense, then you form your budget around it. So you'll go through and say, for this particular income or fund or spending stream, we forecast that in 2014 we're going to spend or receive this much, and so there's your budget. So review your chart of accounts, make sure it makes sense, and then prepare your budget and make sure that that's all ready to go as well, so that you can start recording transactions and applying them to your budgeted values as early as possible. And then lastly, review any insurance policies to confirm they are adequate. So workers' comp, liability, any other insurance policies that you might be messing with, you'll just want to make sure that those are up to date and adequate. One second. Excuse me, a little drink of water. Okay, and lastly, we have the year-end reminders. So the year-end reminders kind of tack into a lot of this different stuff we've already covered. But the first of all is the housing allowance. If you are a faith-based organization and you do the housing allowance to where you designate a certain amount of money that you pay minister or pastor a month for a housing allowance, you want to make sure that you have that figured out so that in the next year they can continue to get issued that money. So I want to make sure of that. We also have their W-4, which we mentioned over here. Just make sure that everybody is up to date on their W-4 deductions, address, anything, whatever, just to make sure that that is up to date. You also want to send a notice to your donors. You want to remind them to wait to file taxes until they've gotten the contribution summary from you, because otherwise it's not going to be accurate. So again, ties back to wanting to make sure that all donations are entered, so that way you can send them their statement, which will be accurate. If you have time, then sending a donors an advanced statement for the year might be helpful. So it doesn't really apply now that the year is turned into January. This is a little bit more helpful in December, but think about it next year, maybe first or middle of December before people check out for the holidays. Send them an advanced statement. So hey, here is your current record for the year. Here's where you're at. Here's how much you've given. Would you like to make an end of the year donation? Studies have shown that the more you ask, the more you receive from your donors. Typically, I mean, you don't want to badger them, but if you ask once a year, you're going to get a certain amount. If you ask multiple times throughout the year, you're going to get a different amount. So just keep that in mind. It might be a way to kind of boost your end of the year donations. And then lastly, Christmas gifts. Some ministers, employees, volunteers might be considered taxable income for them. So handle those carefully and note them as needed. Again, if you need any further coaching on that, we can provide such. We're not CPAs or anything. We just help with accounting and understand fund accounting. So our advice might be somewhat limited, but we are more than willing to help and point you into the right direction for any resources that you might need. So that is the year-end checklist. And again, you can access that through our website, or you just want to Google Aplos year-end accounting checklist. You can have access to this guy as well. So yeah, that is the year-end checklist. Some helpful things to do when finishing out the year. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and mute myself for just a couple of minutes. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to submit those into that question field. And this can be anything regarding the checklist, or even Aplos, or just whatever. Any questions that you guys have, I'm more than happy to answer. So I will mute myself for just a minute, and I'll be back shortly. Thanks.